a greeting from Tina Betts, who is our first tech partner at MVCC, Mohawk Valley Community College out in Utica. She is the partner for Excelsior, New York FTC region, which most of you guys know is all of New York, anything north of the city and Long Island. So she is the partner for all of that. Thank you so much for the fantastic coordinators and volunteers who made today happen in 4 kickoffs. So we have 4 kickoffs going on. It's here and Buffalo, Corning, and Peekskill. Myself and MVCC wish to convey a message of support, community, and admiration for all of the fabulous teams, coaches, mentors, parents, and volunteers, and for all of you to create, and for all you do to create life-changing experiences each first season. Positivity, perseverance, encouragement, and paying it forward should be at the forefront of everything we do. Awesomeness is always created out of whatever magic and teamwork we use to solve the many challenges we all face each season. Last year, the most challenging of all, due to the global pandemic, myself and our dedicated volunteers and committees were showered with more thank yous from team coaches than I remember in all of the 8 years that I've been running events. And I can say the same, like I know that Tyler and I were always getting thank you for everything that was going on, which was great. Everyone was incredibly appreciative of our efforts in making events and remote gatherings happen during such a trying time. Thanks so much for all your help as teams and coaches in making last year work, and also for your efforts and flexibility in this year as we navigate it all together again, once again. Okay, I was gonna say don't close that door because
Didn't close, but it's a little noisy.
Perfect, no, that's fine. It is a very exciting day worldwide as the new First Tech Challenge game will be revealed all across the world to over 6,000 teams today. Everyone is excited to see your progress over the coming months and very much look forward to seeing your innovative robot designs in CAD and or build and programmed robots competing this season. All right, this is the big one. At this point, we are tentatively hopeful to have on-site traditional events to restart this season. Masks will be mandatory without exception at every venue. We are also creating backup plans in case we need to quickly switch to running remote-only events based on possible ever-changing policies in any of our varied venues and state and federal health and safety guidelines. After last year's adaptation to a completely different format of competing, we are confident all of our resilient and problem-solving teams will be flexible and understanding of the possible need to pivot from traditional to remote if needed. Pivot is a big word we've been using a lot lately. Therefore, due to the possibility of traditional on-site to remote event changes, all team members should please study both game manuals for both the traditional events, but also the game manual for remote events. It will be important to note the differences just in case we have to change over to some of our traditional events to remote ones. It is also important to know that we have decided to run at least one remote event anyway, no matter what. Since we know some teams will be unable to attend in-person traditional competitions this season. Remember, I'm still reading Tina. We expect New York Excelsior tournament registration to open the end of October. Tournament dates and venues are still being coordinated in the upcoming weeks. The dates and tournament registration procedures will be communicated via email to all coaches and that are listed each season. And are listed each season on the First at MVCC website pages, which is mvcc.edu/firstrobotics/events. I will tell you guys that really going to the MVCC site does, and not even necessarily knowing all that, it has a lot of valuable stuff on there. So make sure she keeps that First Robotics page pretty up to date. Please change any contact information in your first account and also email it to Tina at tbets@mvcc.edu. Throughout the season, please make sure coaches and all team members read Game Manual Part 1 and 2 so that all competitions can be as successful as possible. Frequently check the updates on these manuals and the posts on the FTC forum, which we're going to talk about because the FTC forum is at a different place now. During any on-site or traditional events, the best alliance partners are those who know the rules and compete with gracious strategizing and collaborating with their partners throughout each day, and treat all the hardworking volunteers with respect. We love that our Excelsior New York region First Tech Challenge teams want to exemplify gracious professionalism in all they do. Gracious professionalism encourages high quality work, emphasizes the values of others, and respects individuals and the community. Gracious professionals learn to compete like crazy, but treat each other with respect and kindness in the process. Have fun today. We look forward to a first-rate year together. I wish everyone an amazing and productive season. See you all soon. Thanks for making our region great. So that's the Tina part. That's the most structured you guys are going to get for the day. So welcome. Thank you guys all for coming. Thank you for being part of the website. What are you?
I'm trying to see if I can find the form. Okay, I can.
Okay. All right. I'm Lisa Russell, for anybody that doesn't know me.
I'm Tyler Russell.
So we've seen the game. We've been able to look at all the manuals, and we'll spend the day today talking to you guys about what's changed and what's the same and where we go from here. Once we can reveal the field, we'll take questions on different parts of the field and we'll show it up close. So I'm turning it over to Tyler because he's the one that spends all the time reading stuff.
Okay, so before 12 o'clock, we can't really talk about Game Manual Part 2 because that's game specific, so we have to keep that secret. What we can talk about, though, is Game Manual 1, which includes a lot of rules that we need to follow, especially about how the robot needs to be built, some of the electronic requirements, that kind of stuff. Some of you guys know all this stuff by heart by now. Some of you guys have never heard any of this before, so we're going to go through it anyway, and just stick with us if you know this already. Basic things for people who are just joining us. There are only 3 allowed batteries, which we talked about. There's a Tetrix 12 volt, there's a Modern Robotics 12 volt, and there's a Rev 12 volt slim pack. The Rev pack is actually flat and wider, so it's not the same form factor as the Modern Robotics or the Tetrix one. Those are the only 3 batteries that are allowed. Just because you can find some other 12 volt battery that's out there doesn't mean we can use it. The big one that is not legal that people wish is legal is that Rev has a 12 volt pack that has the cells slightly off shifted. That pack is not legal, so don't buy that and use that because you'll fail inspection and I'll be sad about that. As far as electronics on the robot, there are expansion hubs. Rev expansion hubs is our main piece of electronics. It's a motor controller, it's a servo controller, it's sensor ports. You can have 2 of those expansion hubs and a cell phone on the robot, or right here. You can do an expansion hub and a control hub, which is the way that I would recommend if possible. The control hub removes that cell phone from your robot and really just removes one of your potential points of failure. So it's really, if you can do a control hub and an expansion hub, that's the way I would recommend going.
But your phones are totally still legal.
Phones are totally legal.
What you did last year has not changed.
Probably. Asterisks on that. The only phones that are legal this year are the Moto phones. So in Game Manual Part 1, there are a list of exactly which Moto phones are legal. But the only phones that are legal are Motos. So no more ZTEs, no more Samsungs, none of that, just Moto phones. So if you have the older Samsungs or the older ZTEs and you need to upgrade anyway, I would really urge you to upgrade towards the Rev stuff. I know they're expensive, but personally, I really think they're worth it. And there is a discount in the first dashboard. When you register, you can buy them for a little bit cheaper.
25%.
25% cheaper, a lot of bit cheaper. On those electronics, you also have the driver side electronics. You can either have a phone or you can have the new Rev driver hub, which the driver hub is basically a phone. It's got a touchscreen in it. It's got USB hubs built into it. What was that? That is the expansion. That is the driver hub sitting there. So the driver hub is an all-in-one device with USB ports for our controllers to connect to directly. So no more OTG cable, no more USB hub. It's got the touchscreen built into it. I think it comes preloaded with the apps, but you can update them too. So this is an awesome little device that, again, if you have nothing and you need to buy something, I would strongly recommend going with this. If you have an older phone that's now no longer legal or you're thinking about upgrading, I would strongly recommend upgrading to this. Having those USB ports really removes a point of failure. And probably any team you talk to can tell you about a time that they were at the field and their controllers disconnected because of a USB hub failing. So I would strongly recommend going with that.
If you're updating.
If you're updating, or if you have to buy new parts, or if you just have some money to burn and want to get a better product, that's the way to go. They also let us have a 5 gigahertz connection between the two instead of using the 2.4 gig Wi-Fi direct. So a little bit faster, a little bit better connection that way too. So really great pieces of hardware that Rev has put out, and really the way that I would recommend to go. But again, phones are still legal, provided that they're one of the phones in our legal list. One thing that I didn't put in here that I should have put in my notes is how to update these devices and your apps on your phones. Rev has put out a hardware manager software on their website that you can install on your laptop. I think it only works on Windows machines right now, but you open it up on your device, you USB into your driver hub, into your control hub, into your expansion hub, whatever devices. You can also connect your phones, I believe, to it, and it will update your apps right through that manager device. It will update the operating systems of the Rev hardware. So that's really an all-in-one package. The other thing it will do, if you are using a control hub and you connect to the control hub's Wi-Fi with your laptop, and then you open that Rev hardware manager, it will automatically set up an ADB connection between your computer and the Rev hub, which means that if you open Android Studio on your machine, that link will already be there. You won't have to mess with setting up ADB in Android Studio or USB cores or anything. Connect Wi-Fi, open Rev hardware manager, and Android Studio will just see the device, which is an awesome step. It's actually the thing that pushed us to use Android Studio on our team this year. So that's a huge thing from them. More of the basics. When it comes to motors, we're limited to 8 motors on the robot. They have to be the specific motors that are allowed in the game manual. They can have any gearbox attached to them. So you're allowed to, for example, buy a Andy Mark Never Rest motor, pull the gearbox off, and put like a Banebot Sport gearbox on. It's totally legal. It's the core motor has to be one of the ones in the legal list. I think there's like 6 or 8 of them that are legal on there. So just be careful of that. Almost all of those motors have encoders built right into them. So that's awesome. And then you can get them in a variety of gears and you can get them in a variety of gearboxes. For servos, we're limited to 12 servos. You can pretty much use any servo you want as long as it's compatible with our hubs. The hubs are limited to 6 volts, and that actually requires a servo power adapter from Rev. These hubs are actually putting out more like 5 volts for the servo controllers, and they have to be a 3-wire servo, so it can't be a 2-wire servo. But other than that, 12 volts or 12 servos, and anything that will be powered by this, you're good to go. All robots must have a power switch. I know we say it every year. I know at least one team that forgets it every year. Got to have a power switch. The power switch has to be between your battery and any other electronics on your robot. The intention of that is that if your robot starts going out of control, if there's an electrical issue, whatever, field personnel can flip that power switch and everything shuts off. Because of that, your switch does need to be somewhere easily accessible, but you also want to have it somewhat protected. So generally don't want to put it on the outside of your robot or something where it can easily get smacked by another robot, but you also can't bury it somewhere where a field personnel has to reach their hand in by dangerous stuff to get to it. It's a fun balancing act to get that in the right place, but you can extend the wires. So if you have the switches come with wires on them, you can pop those wires off and make your own longer wires to get it into a better spot, but you do need a power switch between your battery and everything else.
Which comes to one of the points that I made in Tina's email and message was that there is hope that there will be some kind of traditional matches this year. So do keep that in mind when you're building your robot. So when Tyler
that there will be a remote event though, right?
Yes, I did mention that. Because like last year, we definitely got a little bit more comfortable with the fact that we weren't going to be on the field with anybody else. So a little bit of that was less of a concern of somebody bumping you.
But nothing will ever make you feel more foolish than bumping into the wall and turning your robot off. Just keep that in mind too.
That is true. But just you want to pay attention to robustness this year.
Right.
Because the in-person is our first choice, remote is second choice. Whereas last year we went into the season saying there was no chance that we would be in person. We have hopes. We have hopes that either we'll start the year in person or we'll end the year in person.
Well, no matter, so obviously we're not playing BattleBots, we're not playing Rocket Sock'em Robots, but you have 4 robots. Pretty much everyone's going to be as fast as they possibly can, and you're on a 12-foot by 12-foot field. You're going to make contact with other robots. It just happens. So I know, personally speaking from our team, I know that some of the design decisions we made were made with the consideration that we weren't ever going to see a robot last year. So we maybe didn't make something quite as strong as we would have because we knew it was never going to be in contact with another robot. This season, people really need to think about the fact that you quite possibly will see other robots on the field. And, you know, if you have something that's just plastic sitting on the outside of your robot, somebody else could break that on you because you just make contact, and that's just the way that it works.
Right.
Power switch numbers. All robots have to have numbers displayed on them. They have to be 180. They have to be visible from 180 degrees apart. So that can actually be a flag that's sitting on the top of your robot, a solid flag sitting on top of your robot with the numbers on both sides of it. That is legal because it's visible from 180 degrees apart. There isn't a size constraint on the number anymore. There used to be a size and a stroke constraint. Now the only constraint is that it has to be visible from 12 feet away, I believe. And it has to have a contrasting color from its background. So you can't have, you know, off-white numbers on a white background, black numbers on a white background, or whatever that way. But it just has to be visible from 12 feet away. We're not checking you with tape measures or anything anymore, which makes our lives as robot inspectors a lot easier. And the other thing is the Alliance markers. So for those of you guys who haven't ever used the Alliance marker before, we now have, I think they're red squares and blue circles. They're a certain size that is designated in one of these game manuals. They have to be within 3 inches of your numbers. So if you take your number, you draw a box 3 inches away from it on all sides, it has to be somewhere in that box, and it has to be removable, because we used to get flags when you got to the field that designated your alliance. Now, when you're told what your alliance is, you put on your alliance markers, and that's how you designate if you're red or blue. Again, slightly less of a thing if you're going to be remote, but hopefully we're traditional, so hopefully you're going to need them this year. If you are remote, you do still need a marker, but might be a little more flexible on whether or not it's removable. Those are the really big basics. I mean, the only other thing to really mention is that we are all here. We're all a community. Lisa has her email that she'll send out all the time. Tina, I'm sure, will send out some emails. Reach out. If you guys are looking for help, if you run into some sort of issue, you should never be struggling alone. Reach out, get some help. There's everyone here that's willing to help. And I mean, I know I spent a bunch of time on calls with Burnt Hills last year, with Nut Jobs last year. We're all here for each other. So reach out and please ask for help, because we're all here to give help to each other. Somewhat less basic things that we need to note. The FTC dashboard, all team members have to be registered in the dashboard. I think they actually started that last year, but it's going to be a big thing again this year. It just has to be done. It's for the remote portal or even for in person. They want everyone registering through that dashboard. And if you're having issues, reach out to Lisa, because she's an employee at first now.
And she loves that registration.
She
so
does
much.
love that system.
And just coaches that are on, you have to have 2 coaches. There has to be 2 people YPP'd, screened, in order for you to be able to get into any of the scoring stuff. There has to be 2, or otherwise you can't get into it, whether we're remote or in person. That second person, co-teammate, great if you've got 2 people. Right. If you don't have 2 people, grab a principal. If you're in a school, grab somebody else. You just need to have 2 people,
grab whatever.
YPP, and it's based on email. So you just need to make sure there's a second one in. Otherwise you won't get anywhere with the remote scoring hub, FT. And we are using a lot of FTC scoring thing again this year. That's not the dashboard. Oh, the dash. Yes. FTC dash scoring at First Inspires. That is a great tool to use, whether you're, before we go remote or before we compete at all, because it has a great scoring app in it. So you guys can play around with it and you can score things as you're doing your 2.5 minutes. So I highly, highly recommend that from as soon as you start running the robot, which I also don't think is going to happen for a good month or so. But I'm just saying that when it does, that's a really good thing.
September, right?
Oh, October 2nd.
October 2nd? Yeah.
So, and the reason we're commenting on that, I don't know what you guys can see on the webcam, but on October 2nd, we have our first scrimmage/work day scheduled out here at the 4-H Training Center. And we've traditionally called it a scrimmage, and then it freaks people out because scrimmage means it sounds like we're actually going to run robots. I can tell you in 2 weeks, I don't think there's any chance that we're running robots on that field.
Right, last year's robot running.
But it also is a place where the field will be completely set up and ready for teams to see more, touch more, and really for people to come together. We're trying to get that community back. The one thing that we heard last year, as many thank yous as we heard and as excited as people were that we could do remote and we did something, it was what people missed was seeing each other and seeing how their robots worked and seeing what people had for ideas. So as much as October 2nd seemed really close, and at first I wasn't going to do it, I was like, you know what? We usually do it at the beginning of October. I'm going to stick to it. And whoever can come, comes. Again, we'll run a live stream. Obviously, it's not going to be as effective if you're on screen, but you can ask your questions. By then, you'll have seen the game. You'll have gotten a chance to tweak it and come up with more questions than you're going to see today. Today, you're just going to be like, wow, there's a lot. But then your head starts to swim, and then you can ask. The other thing for the coaches that are on, we are going to start doing FTC coaches calls again. We did them last year, and they're really just a place to go and just say, man, this went really well. This went really poorly. What are your guys' suggestions? So, it's a place to come for questions and answers, and it's a place for us to also build a coaches community. I think this first one, we're going to do just coaches. We won't have teammates come on because then we have to play to a different level of the crumb moments. So we'll do this first one. We'll do just coaches. And then further on in the season, we certainly will do some that will invite team members. Because again, it's really all about getting you guys to get your questions answered. I think that you guys usually have much better questions. My team has much better game and technical questions than I ever have. And so I don't want to eliminate you guys. We need to find a balance so that coaches can ask what they need to ask without team members. So.
The FTC FAQ site. So almost everyone that has been a part of First in the past has been probably on the forums. They're changing the system that we're using this year for the forums. So if you have a link saved somewhere, get rid of it. Don't use that because it will take you somewhere else.
It'll probably take you to a broken form.
It'll probably take you to a broken form or to last year's form. So the best way to get to the forums now is to go to the FTC resource library, which is at firstinspires.org/resource-library/FTC/game-and-season-info.
That should be bookmarked on your computer.
Right. That will have everything. That has the game manuals. That has stuff about the assembly guide, stuff to get an anti-mark, the navigation targets, and it has the FAQ link about halfway down the page. That is where you want to go now for the FAQs. Hopefully it's going to be a better platform. I guess it's the platform they've been using for FRC for a little while, and they're now moving us over to it too. It's going to be new. It's probably going to have issues, but hopefully it's going to be better than what we had and maybe a little more user-friendly. So.
And it's due to open on September 28th. So if you look at it in this first week, it won't be live.
Right. It actually is a lot. You can get into it, but there won't be anything there.
Okay. Yeah, because they're going to spend the first week gathering questions. Then they'll answer them. But the hope is that September 28th they'll be live.
If something super important comes out, though, if there's a super important question that they need to answer, they may post it there. They may also send out a email blast, so make sure that you're paying attention to all the email blasts that are coming out from First, because once in a while they sneak something really important into the middle of that email blast. So you do definitely want to be paying attention to those. Other things, there is no human player this season. So in the past we've had a human player. There is no human player. We will talk more about that when we get into the actual game discussion, but there is not going to be a fourth person from your team at the field anymore. Penalties this year. So last year with remote matches, any penalties that you received were subtracted from your score, obviously. But in the past, anything in a traditional season, it was added to your opposing alliance's score. The way these game manuals are written right now, if you get a penalty, even in traditional, it will subtract that from your score. It will not add it to your opposing alliance. I suspect that has to do with the way that they're doing ranking now, but it also could be a typo, so I don't know. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on, but currently the way that the penalties are written, it will subtract it from your score, which is kind of nice. There is a team scoring element back, so there is an object that you will have to build that is your element for scoring that we can't talk too much about because, again, we can't talk about the game or how it's used yet. The important things to keep in mind, though, is that that element cannot be made out of game elements. So any element that is a part of the field or part of, what we're using to score, none of that can be used. So the year that we did Cityscaper or whatever that one was with the big yellow blocks, and everyone wanted to use those yellow blocks for their team indicator, you couldn't do that, and we can't do it now. So any part that is an element of the game cannot be used as part of your team scoring element,
And if anybody remembers team scoring elements from a couple of years ago, it had size restrictions.
Right.
It does again this year. 3x3x6 is the smallest, and 4x4x8 is the biggest.
We're gonna stop talking about that though before we start giving away something about the match, because
I'm not gonna.
I know, but
I'm fine.
I'm going to.
The other, so you don't talk, I will. The other thing that you need to keep in mind for that is that you also need to make sure that your team number is on it.
Right.
So, again, this is, right now, we're not sharing anything that wasn't in game manual 1, if you read through game manual 1. But those are the two things that you need to keep in mind for the sizing.
Other things that are continuing from past years, we're still limited to an 18 by 18 by 18 bot. So 18 wide, 18 deep, 18 tall. There is no weight limit again this season, which is nice. So the bot can be as heavy as you want, as long as it fits inside of that 18 by 18. Once the match starts, the robot can expand outside of that 18-inch cube, but your starting volume has to be inside of 18 inches. And an important thing to note is, like, if you, at a competition, there's a sizing cube to make sure that you fit. If you have to tilt your robot up on its side to fit into the sizing cube, it needs to start the game up on its side. So just keep that in mind. Whatever orientation we inspect you in is the orientation you have to start in. Same thing if you have multiple arms, for example, that you're going to potentially swap out on your robot, we have to inspect you with each of those attached. So that's just a thing to keep in mind on that. Not having weight makes inspection so much quicker, but we haven't actually done that yet. In the game manuals, and I believe they're in game manual 1, I think they're in game manual 1, are the inspection documents. So there's a hardware inspection document and a software inspection document. Please print those documents, have them on hand at your meetings. I would print tons of them. And at the end of every meeting, I would re-inspect your robot and make sure that you haven't done something to violate one of the inspection steps. Every year, a team gets to our competition and something gets dinged. And it really, for those of us that do the robot inspection, it really stinks to have to send teams back with things. We will try to help and say, hey, this is what's broken. This is an idea of how to fix it. But at the end of the day, in order to compete, you have to make sure that you pass the inspection. Is it part of game manual part 1? It is part of game manual part 1. And the other thing, from a coaching point of view, I would say do it often, if not at every meeting, because my team will tell you how many times they've had to shave off a quarter of an inch after they've gone through sizing is the worst.
Yeah, as they've gone through everything where they thought they've been well within 18, and then all of a sudden we actually do it, and some little part sticks out, because keep in mind, a screw that sticks out is outside of 18, you're outside of 18. So they start to not take that into account. So I would say check often because we've done that a lot.
So that's Appendix B and Appendix C of Game Manual Part 1 have the inspection sheets. So I would either print them or make a fillable PDF that you can go through and go through that at every meeting, however you want to do that. Make sure that you keep those on hand. Make sure that you check those every once in a while, because those are the sheets that David and I use when we need to inspect you at a competition. So if you meet those sheets, then we can meet those sheets and everyone's happy. Yeah, I don't like failing teams at competitions, except nut jobs. I do like failing them. But oh, they're gonna watch this recording and be angry with me.
Yes, they are.
That's all I have for Game Manual Part 1 notes. So are there any questions, comments, concerns, anything about Game Manual Part 1? Silence. Love silence.
Yeah.
We got about 20 minutes we got to fill here, people. Do you have any questions? No? All right.
Do you have any questions? Just taking it all in.
I really had nothing for the next 20 minutes. We're pretty much out of stuff. The only thing I can say is please do remember to reach out. Lisa and I and Tina have Ring Central accounts that we can use for video chatting. I work from home. Lisa works from home. Tina doesn't work from home, but should be somewhat available at least. So if you have issues, please reach out. If you're a school team that meets as a club or something, we can set up a time to be able to do a video chat that way. Nutjobs on the Discord says, yeah, Nutjobs didn't hear me making fun of them on the kickoff. So yeah, please reach out. Please let us know if you have any issues, if you have questions, if you have concerns. You can email Lisa. You can email NY Robovines is our team email that you can reach out to, and we can try to help you there. Lisa should at some point start a coaches email chain if she hasn't already. You can respond into there, and all of the coaches then can potentially respond to you. We've had cases in the past where a team from Albany needed a part, and a team from Utica drove out and gave them the part because they had it. So we are a community. We are a very tight-knit community, and we want to help each other succeed. It's really one of the weird, fun, awesome things that we always mention about FTC is that it's very common to see a team that you're about to compete against help you fix your robot, and then you go compete against them. And that's just normal for us. It doesn't feel weird, but that's the community that First has created. They call it cooperation, and it's really just, it's cooperating with each other to help each other excel while still competing against each other on the field.
It's also called gracious professionalism. But yeah, and
to get onto the email
what?
chain. How shall people get onto the email chain when they want access to that email chain? Should they email Robovines? Should they email you?
They can do either or.
Okay.
I can put my email up.
I can't share the screen because it'll crash my computer. So.
Okay. All right. So my email is lrussell.
RUSSELL
@nicap.rr.com. And I also have my First Inspires one, which is lrussell@firstinspires.org. So either one of them get to me. They all kind of funnel into the same place. And
you can also email nyrobovines@gmail.com, and it will go to both of us. And that is a little bit better for tech questions because it's going to wind up coming to me anyway.
Gotcha. So we're there. That's where you guys are chatting.
Right.
Just so you know. So yeah, any or all of those ways will get to us. And I'm going to start a new one this year because when I sent it out to people this last week, I did get responses from people that haven't done FTC in a couple of years. So I need to pull them off. So I will make sure that it's updated. The easiest way for me to update it is if you email me, because then I can just add you as a contact.
Well, we do need kind of permission to do that.
Right. Right. First rules say I have to send everything to you guys blind CC'd too, so that you guys can't see each other.
Unless you give us permission.
Unless you give us permission. So kind of what will happen with the coaches email is I'm going to ask you guys all for permission, because coming just to me is not the community. You want to go to everybody for a lot of that stuff. I mean, Tyler and I are a lot of times the ones that answer, but like he said, that time that happened with Albany, we didn't have what Albany needed, but somebody else did. So they just knew enough to reach out. And once they reached out, then everybody just kind of went to town. And it's kind of a cool thing. And I mean, the whole thing with First, and I know we have a new coach that's actually online as well. And we look forward to working with them as well. It's cool to watch. My kids will say that I personally don't care if they ever win a match. Tyler, on the other hand, totally does. But to me, it's more important that they be good people and that they're helping people. And that's what has kept me doing this for 9 years when I no longer have any child except for him involved in this program. So
winning motivates us is more important than winning robot.
At least to me. I'm not sure about my kids would not say the same, and I'm not sure about him, but
depends on the day. Morally, it's more important, but come on, you got to win that robot game.
And while we're at it, since we're filling time.
Yep, 15 minutes.
Okay, well, I don't have 15 minutes worth of stuff, but
okay.
Go Builda, actually Precision Cut-Ups, thank you who are out there. Reach out to Go Builda and ask. They are one of the companies that we can order stuff from and have an FTC presence. And I'm not even really sure where they're from. Keegan, are they out by you? He should answer me in a minute.
Wait a minute.
So they sent us some little giveaways for attending today. So I'm going to give them to the coaches. Yeah, Telly, so kind of. Yeah, listen, everything out there that way is near you because it's nearer to you than it is to me. So awesome. So Go Builder is, you're welcome, has donated. They're another place where we get 25% off if we order stuff from them.
They have some great parts. They have some some chassis parts. They have wheels. I think they have some motors potentially. I don't know if they're legal though. They definitely have servos and stuff. So Go Builder they kind of started as a small company, and they've become one of definitely the big first companies. A lot of teams use them. A lot of teams really like them.
Go Builder is the best.
Go Builder is the best. They definitely have started coming up. I mean, between Go Builder and Rev, most teams are supporting that kind of stuff. The other ones that are out there are Acrobatics has become a big thing that people really like. Those are the big ones. Rev has their build system. So.
The thing to keep in mind, Go Builder has on here, and I'll do a plug just because we've got time, to really take a look at the first website for all the different grant options and the different ways that that teams can make money. I will say that I haven't been super good about that, and I literally got on Thursday and found one that we filled out Thursday night because it was going to close on Friday. So just take a look at what's there sponsorship wise. Go Builder has on this that they do sponsorships and scholarships. I have not had a chance to take a look at that, but just keep in mind that there's a lot of people out there that also want to be helping us. And
Go Builder does a lot in the community. I mean, we definitely should plug them at least a little because they have done this. They did raffles for us last year, both at kickoff and during the season. They gave away some parts to teams. So they are an awesome company. They are local, at least in the state, which is awesome. So if you can throw Go Builder some support, definitely would be a good way to go because they are a great company. So Go Builder is a metric acrobatics.
Gotcha. So definitely use them. And there will be things that during the year we do like they did. They gave it was
for posting videos because last year with everyone being remote, a lot of us recorded our matches. It wasn't required by first, but we were recommending it as a region. And Go Build actually came in, and I don't know if that was cut-ups that kind of helped do that. Well, the cut-ups. Okay. So Precision helped do that again, where if you recorded your matches, you put them onto YouTube somewhere where they could be viewed, and then you put them in the master spreadsheet of basically all of the videos for our region. They were picking names out of that spreadsheet for each competition and giving away some stuff in a raffle format there.
And that was good. Those were just straight gift certificates.
Right, those were gift cards, which was awesome because nobody was required to do those videos. There was absolutely no push. But at least in part because of that raffle, we had a lot of teams putting in videos, which was great. And it helped us, everyone kind of see each other's robots and really removed any questions about scoring or anything too, which was awesome. So great company. They're awesome to work with. And thank you to Precision for reaching out to them. It was Java Scouts that organized that one.
Ah, gotcha. Java Scouts is a team that is actually no longer. Their last year was last year.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so we have about 8 minutes. So I'm going to suggest that everyone go to the bathroom, take a drink, relax, and then we will at noon.
11:58.
Yeah, in about 5 minutes, we'll come back on and we'll start stuff. So let's let everybody get their wiggles out for a minute. I know in FLL, it would be a dance party. I'm not really going to dance. So if you guys would like to dance, go for it.
Hello, and welcome First Tech Challenge teams. I'm First Tech Challenge Program Director, Ken Johnson, and I'm excited to be here for the First Tech Challenge 2021-2022 season kickoff and the big reveal of Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. We're thrilled to have Raytheon Technologies as our Freight Frenzy presenting sponsor, which is just one part of the First Forward season presented by Qualcomm. We have a full show today, packed with kickoff messages from some familiar first faces, a gracious professionalism message from our Dean's List award winners, the Freight Frenzy season reveal, and finally a detailed field walkthrough to help teams get started. All the game materials are available on our website, so please use the website as your reference during the season. To get us started, here's First founder Dean Kamen.
Hello, First Tech Challenge teams, and welcome to First Forward, this year's season presented by Qualcomm. This season's First Tech Challenge game is Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. Every year we make the game more challenging, and every year you amaze us with your solutions. As I've always said, First creates the hardest fun you'll ever have, and I hope that you use this experience to start you on a pathway to solving some of the world's biggest problems as I hope you pursue careers in technology. Good luck to everybody. I look to see you at events throughout the season.
Thanks, Dean. And now I'd like to share some of the things you can expect in the upcoming Freight Frenzy season. Another incredible First Tech Challenge season is here, and I want to share a few things about this season we think you're really going to like. The biggest change this year will be the return of in-person play. We know not all regions will be back 100% to traditional events, but we hope most of you will be able to get together for live competition. I can tell you we miss them, and I know our students, coaches, volunteers, and sponsors can't wait to get back out there, to compete, see what others have accomplished, and renew friendships, or at least friendly rivalries. There are still many unknowns, and we realize some regions and countries may choose the remote event format we introduced last year due to social distancing rules in their area. The good news is that the FTC scoring system for Freight Frenzy will support remote events for both individual robot match play and remote judging, just like last season. And, like last year, regions can switch from one format to the other mid-season if necessary. Your program delivery partner will make that call based on local rules and conditions. This season, teams will again be able to request judge feedback from their interviews and the materials they submit for judging. We added this feature as an opt-in option last year. You already know judges can only pick one winner, and the award competition across FTC is tough. We added this option as a valuable tool for teams to understand how they can improve. I encourage teams to ask for this feedback at your events this year. What else is new? Well, we just introduced the Driver Hub into the standard FTC kit of parts. The Driver Hub can be used to replace the driver's side smartphone and USB hub and connector with a single device. The Driver Hub operates on the Android operating system, which has been slimmed down, has a great user interface, and was built for our FTC competition environment. You can still use your smartphone and USB hub in FTC this season and going forward. We created a Tech Talk video on this subject with more detail. Check it out. I can't wait to see you play Freight Frenzy this year, in person and with all the wonderful excitement our games and events generate. I'll see you soon. A huge thank you to all our sponsors this year, making our First Forward season and Freight Frenzy game possible. Since 2006, Qualcomm has supported FIRST programs, events, and teams worldwide, and has also been a major technology partner with First Tech Challenge. Through their collaboration and support of FIRST, Qualcomm is helping build the pipeline of STEM leaders who will drive the invention age.
Hello, First Tech Challenge teams, and welcome to the First Forward season presented by Qualcomm. My name is Susie Armstrong, and I am a Senior Vice President of Engineering at Qualcomm. We are so happy to be a part of this exciting season as we explore the future of transportation and how it impacts individuals and economies across the globe. The future of transportation is so vast, from getting packages delivered to your front door to bringing humans to space. So much technology from the business community powers the future, and we at Qualcomm are so excited to play a role in it. Our foundational wireless technologies transforms how the world connects, computes, and communicates, and has the power to enhance how goods and people travel, providing increased visibility and control over transportation systems. From the wireless technology that keeps us all interconnected, to powering solutions to explore life beyond Earth, Qualcomm has always been at the forefront of transportation innovation. And now it's your turn to drive. In First Forward, First teams will explore how to innovate for future transportation ecosystems, making the delivery of essential items faster and more sustainable than ever before. You are forging a new path, accelerating the breakthroughs of tomorrow, and you are driving First Forward, full speed ahead. Good luck to all this season.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you, Qualcomm. In First Tech Challenge, you're developing real-world skills such as digital literacy, teamwork, leadership, creative problem-solving, and project management, skills that are used every day at Raytheon Technologies.
Hello, First Tech Challenge teams. We're excited to welcome you to Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. I'm Mark Iwamoto, a First Tech Challenge alum and a radar systems engineer here at Raytheon Technologies. Just like First Tech Challenge, at Raytheon Technologies, we're accelerating ideas to solve some of the world's biggest challenges through collaboration, innovation, and of course, gracious professionalism. When I was in First, my team's robot included materials like plywood, PVC pipes, surgical tubing, and a lot of glue and duct tape. We found unique solutions to be competition ready and the opportunity to tackle engineering problems in a large team setting. Now, I work on the ASARS-2B program, an advanced all-weather surveillance radar that flies on the Lockheed Martin U-2 aircraft. I always knew I was interested in engineering, but it was the hands-on engineering and mentorship from Raytheon and other industry engineers that solidified my desire and gave me the skills, confidence, and opportunity to pursue it. Now it's your chance to build the skills and confidence to forge your own path and find unique solutions to Freight Frenzy and the real-world challenges beyond. Aaron, what about you?
Mark is absolutely right. First Tech Challenge taught me the power of creative problem solving, collaboration, learning through failure, and perseverance. Hi teams, my name's Erin Kerrigan Mitchell, First Tech Challenge alum, shout out to Team 4140 Fish in the Boat, mentor for all 3 FIRST programs, event volunteer, and a manufacturing engineer at Collins Aerospace. FIRST is the reason that I am an engineer. It's also why I work at Collins Aerospace. And at Collins, my various engineering roles have not only allowed me to be innovative, but contribute to the innovation and improvements of humanitarian transportation. And now I work on producibility and ease of assembly, so that when parts need to be installed or replaced on a plane, it can be done quickly, safely, and in a variety of environments. The product I currently work on helps with overheat detection along the wing of the aircraft, so there's constant feedback to the pilot on the endurance levels of the plane, especially critical in dangerous weather or when transporting important material. Innovation and inventions of every size can make an impact, and the future of transporting critical items quickly, safely, and efficiently relies on your creative solutions. Good luck this season, teams.
Thanks, Aaron, and hello, First Tech Challenge teams. I'm Daniel Fishman, proud FIRST alum, FIRST robotics competition mentor, event volunteer, and project engineer at Pratt & Whitney. Through my experience in FIRST, I started to develop the skills necessary to communicate and cooperate with diverse groups. I also learned how to grow from my failures as well as my successes. On top of these soft skills, I obtained the engineering skills necessary to build a robot. Every day, I continue to develop and build these skills with my new team at Pratt & Whitney. Like Mark and Aaron, my experience with FIRST helped launch my career in engineering. Thanks to the valuable mentorship from Pratt & Whitney engineers on my FIRST team, I obtained multiple internships. Now I get to develop innovative solutions for a class of Pratt & Whitney engines that support global humanitarian efforts. How will you use the skills you're developing today to build your projects of tomorrow? Good luck this season, and thanks for participating in Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies.
Thank you. Without the support of sponsors, volunteers, program delivery partners, and all of you at home, First Tech Challenge wouldn't be possible. In addition to celebrating our sponsors, we also want to celebrate our FIRST alumni and give a shout out to our alumni and scholarship program at FIRST. While we know the world isn't back to normal yet, we are excited to have more in-person events this season. No matter what our season looks like, at the heart of each and every FIRST event is gracious professionalism. Here's our 2020-2021 Dean's List winners to remind us all about the importance of gracious professionalism this season.
Gracious professionalism to me is being able to create and partake in a community where everyone's ideas and opinions are valued.
It means being trustworthy, respectful, and always ready to work with others to help them grow.
Working hard to reach your goals in the competition, while also helping other teams reach their own goals.
Being nice and respectful to your competitors and treating them as friends while learning and growing with them as a community.
It means creating an inclusive community by helping others and even sharing information with other teams.
One way we can be gracious professionals is to share our work with the FIRST community online, so others can learn from us and we can learn from others.
As members of FIRST, we learn and compete, but treat one another with respect and kindness in the process.
Building the best possible future for everyone. Even though we are all competing against each other, if we raise our competitors up, we all win.
FIRST depends on our community embracing gracious professionalism, making it a priority in the competition season and part of your everyday life. This season, your goal is to be a collaborative teammate, a respected competitor, and a better person, which are all central themes of being a gracious professional. Speaking of gracious professionals, volunteers are critical to the success of our program, and this game was created by a very dedicated group of volunteers. So I'd like to take a moment to thank all of our volunteers, and especially our game design team, for creating such a fantastic game this season. I think they really outdid themselves. After the reveal, make sure to stick around for the field walkthrough. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, the big reveal of the 2021-2022 First Tech Challenge game, Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies.
Turn down the rates, and there she flies.
I'm sure you're all wondering why you're here. Does anyone know what this is? A robot? It's not just any robot. What? You all have something special that would make you perfect for this team, and we'll need all of you to solve this. So what do you say?
I'm in.
Yes.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Your upcoming challenge in Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies, is to work together as a team to build a robot that can traverse rough terrain and obstacles to transport a variety of freight from warehouses to shipping hubs. The future of transportation is evolving. Will you take the wheel?
Welcome to the First Tech Challenge 2021-2022 season game, Freight Frenzy, presented by Raytheon Technologies. A team consists of up to 2 driver-operators, a coach, and a robot. The robot must be built from materials specified in the game manual and fit within an 18-inch sizing tool, but may expand after the match begins. Each match is played with 4 randomly selected teams, 2 per alliance. Your opponent for one match may be your partner for another. The game is played on a 12-foot square playing field with a foam tile floor and 1-foot-high walls. In the back of the field are taped-off warehouses, which are alliance neutral. Obstructing the warehouses are barriers that robots must drive over or around. At the front of the field are Alliance-specific storage units. Alliance-specific carousels are mounted on the front corners of the field walls. Alliance-specific barcode tape is located between the warehouses and the storage units. 4 unique navigation images are located around the field perimeter. 2 Alliance-specific shipping hubs and a 3rd shared shipping hub are positioned as shown. Outside of the field walls are the red and blue Alliance stations. There are 2 types of freight: 20 pieces of cargo, 2.7 inches in diameter, and 2-inch square boxes in various weights. 30 lightweight, 20 medium, and 10 heavy boxes. 4 of the lightweight boxes are marked with an X. In addition, rubber ducks will play a key role in the game, and teams will be constructing their own custom-designed shipping elements. Before each match, the freight is stored in the warehouses and a preload box is placed onto the field for each robot. A duck is placed onto each carousel and in the middle position of each barcode. The remaining ducks are stored in the Alliance loading docks. Teams then place their robots on the field, touching the wall adjacent to their Alliance station, but not in a warehouse. The teams then place 1 preload box for each robot. A team may then decide to use their own shipping element in place of a duck on the barcode, or store their shipping element in the loading dock. The duck or shipping element on the barcode is then randomized to one of 3 locations. The players and field are now ready. Each match begins with a 30-second autonomous period. During this period, there are a number of ways for teams to score, using only pre-programmed instructions and sensor inputs. Delivering the duck from the carousel earns 10 points. Each piece of freight delivered to the Alliance's storage unit will earn 2 points. Each preloaded box placed on an Alliance's shipping hub earns 6 points. But there are ways to earn bonus points. If the box is placed on the correct level as indicated by the duck's location on the barcode, the Alliance earns a 10-point bonus. If a robot places its preload box on the level shown by its Alliance's shipping element position on the barcode, it will earn a 20-point bonus. A robot parked on its Alliance's storage unit earns 3 points. However, if the robot is parked completely in the storage unit, it will earn 6 points. A robot parked in the warehouse closest to its Alliance station earns 5 points. If the robot is completely inside the warehouse, it will earn 10 points. Following the autonomous period is the 2-minute driver-controlled period. During this time, Alliances score points by delivering freight to storage units and shipping hubs. For example, each piece of freight delivered to an Alliance's storage unit will earn 1 point. Freight scored on an Alliance's shipping hub will earn 2 points on a level 1, 4 points on a level 2, and 6 points on level 3. Each freight scored on the Alliance's side of the shared shipping hub will score 4 points for their Alliance. The last 30 seconds of the driver control period is the end game. Robots may continue scoring freight, and there are also ways to earn bonus points. Delivering a duck or shipping element to the floor earns the Alliance 6 points. A balanced shipping hub at the end of the match earns 10 points. If an Alliance's section of the shared shipping hub is in contact with the tile floor, that Alliance earns 20 points. Robots parked in a warehouse earn 3 points. However, if the robot is parked completely in the warehouse, it earns 6 points. Each team's shipping element, fully supported by a shipping hub center pole or another team's capped shipping element, will earn 15 points. There are many ways to score in Freight Frenzy, but there are also rules that, if not followed, will deduct points from your Alliance. For example, robots cannot interfere or interact with the opposing Alliance shipping hub. Scoring elements may not be launched. Robots may not interfere with their opposing Alliance's capping attempts. Only one duck or team shipping element is allowed on the carousel at a time. A robot may not cause an opposing Alliance robot to become pinned, trapped, or blocked. This is just a brief summary of the Freight Frenzy game. For complete rules, please read the game manual and check the Q&A forum. And always remember the most important rule of First Tech Challenge: gracious professionalism. Good luck, teams, and have a great season.
What a game we have this season. Here to give us a closer look at the field is Erin Fadden, Game Design Committee team member and First Tech Challenge project manager.
Hi everyone, I'm Erin Fadden, member of the First Tech Challenge Game Design Committee. Now that you've seen the Freight Frenzy presented by Raytheon Technologies game, let's talk about some of the unique challenges that you'll see in this year's game. First, let's talk about the autonomous task, specifically reading the barcodes. When a team arrives at the field for pre-match setup, there will be a duck located on the middle barcode facing to the right. A team places their robot touching their Alliance wall and must preload the preload box. A robot may either be touching the preload box or in full possession of it. Now, a team has the option of introducing their team shipping element onto the field in place of the duck. Once placed, the actual location of the duck or team shipping element will be randomized. This task is really about reading the barcode to determine where the duck or team shipping element is located. The location of either indicates which level of the Alliance shipping hub to score the preload box. Teams receive more points for this task using the team shipping element in place of the duck. Located in the back of the field are the warehouses. Each warehouse holds approximately half of the freight. Freight consists of cargo and 3 different weighted boxes. The warehouses are Alliance neutral, as are the scoring elements. In order for a robot to legally collect and possess freight, they must first start completely out of the warehouse, drive completely in the warehouse, collect 1 piece of freight, and then drive completely out of the warehouse with the collected freight. To access the warehouse, robots will need to traverse over the barriers. Now, there have been allowances made for robots to avoid driving over the barriers, as there is an approximate 13.75-inch gap. Teams will need to factor this into their robot design strategy. Do you build a robot that will be able to fit through the gap, or would a better strategy be to build a larger robot that can successfully cross the barriers? As mentioned in the game animation, there are 3 different weighted boxes that make up the freight. Teams can strategize how they program their robot or use sensors to determine the weight of the box as they retrieve them from the warehouse, because the weights will make a difference when placed onto the Alliance or shared shipping hubs. All of the shipping hubs have a wobble base. For the Alliance shipping hubs, you want to try and keep those balanced throughout the match, meaning the rim of the shipping hub is not in contact with the floor. The shared shipping hub is split for use of both of the Alliances, and the intent is to have the shared shipping hub tipped in favor of your Alliance with the rim of the hub touching the floor. In front of the field towards the audience are 2 carousels, one for the Red Alliance and one for the Blue Alliance. Teams will need to be thoughtful when designing a mechanism to interact with the carousel. The robot may only interact with the rim of the carousel to make the platform of the carousel spin. Spinning the carousel and knocking the duck or team shipping element to the floor is the only way to legally deliver the elements to earn points. During the endgame, robots may now cap their Alliance shipping hub. Teams will need to be thoughtful about their team shipping element design strategy, as well as how they place the team shipping element onto the hub. The goal is to cap the Alliance shipping hub while still keeping the hub balanced. I hope you enjoyed this overview of Freight Frenzy presented by Raytheon Technologies. Please make sure to read both the Game Manual Part 1 and Game Manual Part 2. There are 2 versions of each of these manuals on our website for both remote and traditional gameplay. Also, every team is allocated 1 account to ask questions and receive official answers on the First Tech Challenge forum throughout the season. Thanks for taking a closer look. We're excited to see how you work together and use your robots to build a path forward.
Thanks so much, Aaron. The field looks full of exciting and fun new challenges. This season is going to be off the rails. We can't wait to see your creative solutions and robots in action on the field. And if you're watching but haven't registered yet, there's still time to hop on board. Visit our website for details and get started. Be sure to tag First Tech Challenge on your team's social media throughout the season so we can keep in touch and see how your team is tackling the game. Thanks for joining us for Kickoff this season. And for all of us here at First Tech Challenge, good luck and have a great year. And I hope to see you out there in person soon.
Oh, showing video. Okay.
All right, so there you have it, guys. And we can unveil the whole field. Yes.
Make sure they can hear us. Okay. So I have some notes on Game Manual Part 2 that we'll go over as well. But let's go look at the field.
Let's go right out that door. It smells.
It smells like outdoors.
It does smell like outdoors, but people want to get around the whole
You can't
field.
see yet on the video. There's a big tarp being pulled out of the room.
Ooh, and I keep stepping on it as I'm doing it. That's perfect. Thank you.
Feel free to stand up and go look at the field. We don't need to sit in our chairs anymore.
The chairs are comfy.
The chairs are pretty comfy. So let's talk robot game. So the first thing to always keep in mind, we say it every season, and we need to say it again this season, is that just because the video has been released and it said some things in the video doesn't necessarily mean that any of it's going to be true tomorrow. The video is in the chain of hierarchies of things that you listen to as far as game rules. The video is the lowest thing in the hierarchy. So you basically should ignore the video and go with your game manuals instead. So some basic things. I have a lot of notes on this part because this is the fun part. The white sections here are called the warehouses. That is where the elements will be dumped. The elements will always be in that corner square on both sides. So they can be randomly placed, but randomly placed within that square. They will be half and half distributed, roughly half and half. As far as the rule book has said, there's no clarification on having to try to make equal the weights. So you could potentially have all of the heavy blocks in that side and none of the heavy blocks over in this side. Can people see me on the video? They can't. Remembering that we're live streaming this too. You could have all the heavy blocks on that side and none of the heavy blocks on that side. And as far as I can see in Game Manual Part 2 right now, that would be acceptable. I suspect a clarification will come out about that, but right now there's no ruling that says you have to split the heavies, the lights, and the mid-weights at all. I also don't believe that the wiffle balls necessarily have to be completely even. For the blocks, there is a modified part, which I talked about a little bit. There are little cylindrical pieces of metal that come with O-rings that you have to shove into the blocks. Not the easiest things to put in there. Personally, if I were to do it again, I would take all the metal ring. I took all the metal pieces and put all the O-rings on them first. I would do that again. I wouldn't try to put them on as you need them. So I pulled out all the metal pieces, pulled out all the O-rings, put an O-ring on each metal piece, and got all of that done first. Then I would probably take these, get them set in the hole, put the block on some sort of hard surface that you're not too worried about scuffing, and just shove down on them. So either a cutting board, a harder working table, a desk, whatever, and push them in that way. We were trying to just push them in with our thumbs on the metal piece. Not the greatest way to do it. It definitely was a little bit of a pain. So that's something to consider on those.
And pay attention to where they are.
Do pay attention to where they are because they're next to impossible to get out once you get them in there.
And I screwed it up a couple times.
She did. Needle nose pliers will get them out if you really need to.
They're on opposite corners. Opposite corners.
Yeah, they're never going to see that. But
I know, but sorry. But they're on opposite corners. So just keep that in mind.
The instructions in the game setup are fairly clear about it, but take your time when putting them in there because it's a little weird and you get in a roll and then you put them in the wrong place and you have to try to get them out, which is not fun. There are navigational images again. 2 of them will be in these above these warehouses, which are what these are called. 2 of them will be along the Alliance wall, 4 mats up. So there will be 4 mats up on both sides there. I don't know which ones are which, but Lisa has the actual images. As far as ducks go, 1 duck is on preloaded. The other ducks will sit down by your driver's station. Now, we said earlier that there is no human player this year, but there is human interaction with those ducks. So one of your drive team members, probably either your coach or your secondary driver, will interact with those ducks. Personally, I'm leaning more towards secondary driver, only because your robot has to actuate this turntable. Your robot can't touch the top of the turntable, can't touch the bottom. It can only touch this side edge. Personally, I would have the secondary driver doing it because if you give the secondary driver control of this turntable, whatever you spin it with, the secondary driver can place the duck, run the turntable, and make sure that fingers aren't in the way of getting caught anywhere.
There is a thing that we did not put on.
There is a pinch hazard
But there's a
warning
pinch
because
hazard.
this can be a pretty decent pinch hazard there. So personally, I'm thinking that our secondary driver, whoever controls this turntable, will also be the one to put ducks on the turntable.
But it doesn't need to be.
It doesn't need
That
to
is totally a team
Right.
decision.
It just, one of your 3 drive members will be the person doing that. You can only put ducks on this during the end game. So you preload a duck during autonomous, and then you can't touch it again until end game when you start putting ducks on. These are a little tricky to put onto the field, so try not to get too annoyed with them. The way we did it, we pulled this bar off, which is what they tell you to do, and then we actually pulled the top metal section off of the pipe, hooked up the bottom, shoved the top back on, and then put the turntable back together. So that's how we did it. That seemed to be the easiest option. But just a little note on that. There are 20 wiffle balls. They're about 2.75 inches in diameter. There are 4 preloaded cubes that will start on your robot. They're the ones with the X's that they mentioned in the video. There are 26 of those light cubes. Those light cubes are 1.79 ounces. The medium cubes there are 20 of, and they are 3.28 ounces. And then there are 10 heavy cubes, which are 4.78 ounces. So the weights are noticeably different, surprisingly, but they're not, it's not a pound, 2 pounds, and 3 pounds. But they are noticeably different. The possession limit for this year is 1 item of freight.
Take these.
So either 1 ball, 1 block, 1 ball or 1 of the 3 blocks. So you can only have 1 piece of freight, and then your team shipping element you can have as well. So you can hold your team element and a piece of freight, but that's the only time you can have more than 1 object.
About cargo and stuff.
Freight.
And freight. Anybody who's been around for a couple years should have these. So they're not automatically sending them if you're ordering a field. It is, you have to order the elements separately. I said it to you guys, I think Burnt Hills probably has them somewhere. And I gave you a couple to take back with you so you can play with them.
Right, there's an option for with elements, and there is an option for cube modifiers only. So for something like you guys, cube modifiers only will do the job. If you order the field with the elements, I don't believe that they come with those pressed in. I think you still have to press them. So just a note, you're not gonna, I don't think you're saving yourself hassle by ordering elements. You're still gonna have to push in those things. Minor penalty for controlling more than 1 piece of freight. It's an immediate minor penalty if you're controlling more than 1 piece of freight. And then it's a major penalty for every 5 additional seconds. We still get the clear of if you're plowing through, you can push through any amount of freight, but the second you start actually controlling where that piece of freight is going, you're now in possession of it and you'll get a penalty. It's a major penalty if you score an element while over the possession limit. The ducks and the shipping element. So when you start autonomous, you can put the shipping element onto the barcode. You can actually remove the duck from the barcode and put your shipping element there instead, or your team element there. If you do that, cool, now it's on the field and you're good to go. If you don't, your team element starts over with the ducks. When you spin this and you load them onto the field, they have to touch the floor before they touch your robot. So before your robot can be in possession of that, it has to touch the floor. That's really a bigger thing with your team element because you're going to pick that up. Once your duck hits the floor, there's really no reason to touch it. So that's not a big deal. But with your team element, if you load it in this way, has to touch the floor before your robot can pick it up. So just keep note of that. If you interact with this carousel as a human during an autonomous, it's a major penalty. If you try to deliver things during teleop, it's also a major penalty. shipping hubs, those things. The shipping hubs, the first level is 18 inches in diameter, and it is 3 inches above the playing field floor. So that's the bottom black layer here, is 18 inches in diameter, 3 inches off the floor. The second one is 15 in diameter, 8.5 inches off the floor to this top face. And the third level is 12 inches in diameter, 14.75 inches off the floor. So those are your 3 heights there.
And your top height, where you have to cap, is 18 inches.
18 inches there? Okay.
Yep.
So 18 inches to get onto the top of the spike in the middle. The shared shipping hub is approximately 18 inches in diameter. And it should also be that 3 inches off the floor. So that's the shared shipping hub there. Now, with remote field, if we do have to transition to remote, really the main difference is that shipping hub doesn't, or the shared hub doesn't exist. The field is cut down to 2/3 of the width, and basically everything from here over doesn't exist on that. So you just have those 3 sections there. That is the main remote difference. Actually, I think that's the only real remote difference. Yeah, and obviously half of the elements if we go remote, and only 1 robot at a time. So there's really not a lot of major rule differences between in-person and remote, which is kind of nice building wise. But there will be a lot of considerations to keep in mind, like if you're programming an in-person autonomous, you have to worry about other robots on the field. When you're programming your own autonomous, there's no other robots on the field. So that is nice. Hopefully we don't need remote, but we will see. Storage unit here is approximately 22.75 by 22.75. You can put freight in there and earn some points. And I don't have the point table in front of me right now.
They do.
You guys do though. On that 1-page description has the point breakdown for that. So you get freight from, go ahead.
Talking about completely in and completely out.
I was about to do that actually.
Oh, all right. Well, I get to do it.
Okay.
So it completely in, completely out is on the outside of the tape. It's considered completely in. So keep in mind that even though we're using 2-inch tape, as long as everything about your robot has crossed this line and is inside of either one of these sides or the same thing over there, as long as you're inside the tape, you can, part of you can be on the tape, or, error, amount of error, try to be in. But just so that you guys know, there's a force, or there's a field that goes straight up, then that you have to cross that.
Right. So this tape, the outside edge of that tape, if there was a wall that went to the ceiling, everything has to be inside, not just your wheels or whatever's contacting the floor. So if you have an arm sticking off your robot, that has to be inside of that force field box as well. The reason that that's important is because of how this warehouse works. So the white section here, in order to get an element out of this warehouse, your robot has to be completely outside of it. So no part of the robot is inside of that square. You drive into the square so that all of your robot is inside of that square. No part is hanging out of it. You can then pick up a piece of freight, and then you have to completely leave that square in order to do anything with that freight. So your robot and that piece of freight have to completely leave the square before you can store it. So there's no Rover Ruckus type collectors that can reach over the wall, grab a piece of freight, and pull it back in. You have to actually drive your whole robot in there.
Right, especially since you
the preload block we talked about splitting that. 1 duct starts on the carousel, 1 duct starts on the barcode, which is what these pieces of tape on the field, the little 2x2 pieces of tape are the barcodes. You can swap that duct for your team element, so that's an important note.
It doesn't make any sense, because usually whatever's happening in the breakout room doesn't matter when she went to the main class or main room. And if you could hear them in
I could hear them in the breakout room, and as soon as they kicked me out, I got back and I started going to audio by computer just like I had before.
And it wasn't there.
So those are the major things. I have my point breakdown here, so I actually did have a point breakdown. The only other thing that I want to note, and and this is again kind of more for the newer team members than the older ones. But accessing the field is somewhat restricted during a match. So as soon as you start a match, you're no longer allowed to access the field. So
That sounds like
your
that's a them
scorekeeper,
problem, not a
whether
you
it's one of your team members in a remote
Like, what did they make
world,
you when they?
or the actual scorekeeper in a live
Well, it'll
world,
be interesting to see
your
when you come
scorekeeper
back
will
on
randomize the
and
field
see
once you
if
set up your robot.
that's gone
Once
away.
that
'Cause now
randomization
they've
is
shut down
happening,
all their Zoom
you're not
stuff.
allowed to
So when they
access
bring it
anything
back
inside
up,
of the
they
field.
should bring it back up.
It is.
All right. Well, we'll take a look because right now I can't change any settings because I can't.
It's actually a yellow card, I believe, if you access the field at any time during the match, and I believe also a major. The minor penalty, if during match setup or end of the match you enter too early, or you don't get out of there, you start reaching in or something, you can get a minor. If you actually delay the start of a match in a traditional environment because you're not getting out of the field quick enough, it's a major penalty. And then if you try to get into it during a match, they will probably yellow card you and give you a major penalty. That goes for team members. That also goes for FTAs and field personnel. So as an FTA, when I'm at a competition, if your robot starts doing something weird, I can't reach into the field and power cycle your robot to try to reset anything. The only instance where I can reach into the field as an FTA, or where David can reach in as a referee, would be if your robot is doing something that's going to cause field damage, it's going to cause damage to other robots. Really, we're not even supposed to do anything if your robot's going to damage itself. It's just if it's going to damage something else. Then we can reach in and flip that power switch and disable your robot, but that's all we can do. And that's only if it's safe for us to do it. These robots seem small and they seem like, not all that dangerous, but they are quite dangerous. So they really don't want us getting in this field if we can avoid it from the time the match starts to the time the match ends. So that's something very important. And it's very hard, especially in a remote world when it's just your robot on the field and you have some game element stuck somewhere it shouldn't be or something like that. You want to reach in and just grab that piece, but you can't. That's a penalty, and it could lead to other worse things. So don't, once the match has been randomized, don't reach into the match until that end game has rung and the match has been scored. In a live event, you wait until the referees tell you that you can enter the field. So that's all I really have for my list of stuff. Do we have any questions on the stream? No question on the stream. Do we have any questions in here? Nothing?
Can you show me what a barcode looks like?
So these are the barcodes. These pieces of tape here are the barcodes. Yep. Barcodes. You can use color sensors to detect which one. So, if there's a duck on here, you can use a color sensor to try to detect that duck. We do get some vision processing. So as part of the FTC APK, they include TensorFlow, which is probably what will detect the ducks. And they also include Vuforia, which is what will detect the images, and it will give you an idea of where the robot is on the field. You can also build your own vision processing with something like Easy OpenCV or something like that. So that's the barcode there. And in Autonomous, if you've taken that duck off and replaced it with your team element, you get 20 points for finding the right one instead of 10 points if you leave the duck there. So that's a nice little added bonus if you're able to find your team element instead of just the duck.
Which I was a little confused, I will say, when we started, and I was like, why? Your team element's going to be bigger, but that's going to be built into
TensorFlow.
Into TensorFlow. Whatever you've created, you got to figure out to find on your own.
Right.
So that made a little more sense. I was like, it should be easier to find.
Still could be a color sensor or a distance sensor, to just see, okay, if I look here, I hit something. If I look there or there, I don't hit something, then it must be in the middle. So there's options there, but it does earn you more points to replace that duck, assuming you can do it.
So after the team places it down, there's that random selection. How does that get chosen?
So in the scoring system, there's a randomizer that will roll the dice as you will, and then a field personnel will move it. Now, if you have an element that is directional dependent. So say I'm using one of these X's, and the way that my robot sees it best is if it sees those squares there, however you set it down on the field is how the field personnel will move it. So if you set it in the middle one, and it gets randomized to be the top one, field personnel will not rotate. They'll just move it right up. So whatever orientation you put it in should be the orientation that your robot detects it in, because field personnel will not rotate it when they move it. Same thing with the duck. If they put the duck that way, they will move the duck.
Duck facing right.
Facing right?
Yep.
Like right that way?
Yep.
Okay.
So the
Duck will always be that way.
Always going to face to the right.
Will always face right relative to the robot. So on the blue side, I assume it will face towards the audience.
Right. And there's not anything that says the block has to go that way and it can't go the other way, right?
The block the block's not going to be there, but your team element can go whatever direction it wants to be, but whatever direction you put it has to be that way. There is actually the rule that your team element cannot represent the block or the wiffle ball. It can't be a block in a wiffle ball. It can't look like a block in a wiffle ball. It has to be something unique. Honestly, not last year, but what was it, 2 years ago, did we use that cup? Mm-hmm. We happened to be at a hotel and before one of our competitions, and I don't remember if we couldn't find our team element or we didn't like it or it was broken or whatever. We found a Hyatt Hotel cup from their courtesy stuff, wrote our number on the side in Sharpie, and that was our team element at the event. It got a lot of comments.
It was janky, but it was. The other thing to keep in mind is that block or that
barricade thing, wall thing,
is 13.75 inches from both sides. And we don't have it attached today just because it didn't make any sense to do it. But you're going to want to use zip ties and blocks that they come
I think they're on the side. There's little metal plates that go underneath the mat.
And so then you're going to hold it down itself with those.
Because right now, if we drive our robot into that, it'll slide away on us. But it's because we didn't want to clip zip ties when we left to bring it back to our normal space. So we just didn't zip tie it down.
But you're going to want to do that because otherwise it's going to move on you.
Right.
Online, there's a question. Asking if we have a chassis with mechanism wheels here, and wondering if it would be able to straight over the.
We do have our chassis. We do have mechanism wheels. The mechanism wheels are not currently attached to our chassis. I can tell you safely that it will not strafe over these walls. It will likely, potentially, probably drive over them forwards and backwards, but there's no way that those strafing rollers are going to let it drive over sideways.
The strafer kit.
I don't have a strafer kit. We don't have a strafer kit. You'd have to look at ground clearance on what your angle of attack clearance is on those.
There is
probably not, based on what I know of those kits. I would guess that the default, like the Andy Mark strafer kit, probably will not clear these things straight on without a little bit of modification, because I think that the plate that's on the side of the kit, I believe, goes in front of the wheel slightly, or it's in line with the wheel. So I'm not sure that you'll get the angle of attack that you need to be able to get over these. You also might high center with a kit, because there is a 5-inch gap between the two pipes. So when your first wheel goes over and comes down, if your wheel doesn't touch the ground before your chassis touches that pipe, you're not going anywhere at that point. So you do have to be a little careful of that. Any other questions from that? No? Okay. I am very interested to see what teams do wind up using. They can see me. I think they can see me. Yeah. I am very interested to see what teams wind up using as far as drive wheels go. Mechanism wheels have kind of become the norm because they give us that ability to go side to side. I'm a little bit concerned about mechanism wheels' ability to get over these pipes. The pipes are pretty smooth PVC, and I just don't know that Machinima wheels are going to totally be able to drive over them and get enough traction to pull themselves over. So that's part of why our Machinima wheels are here and our robot is here, was if we had free time, which I don't know if our kids will do it or not, but if they had time to give them the ability to try to drive over and then swap wheels and drive over with Mechanims. Right now we have Andy Mark Stealth wheels on, which will almost without a doubt make it over these. So it will be a little interesting to see if this is the first year that we kind of see the strafing go away a little bit because of our ability to get over those.
What Mechanim wheels do we have?
Our team personally has the Andy Mark HD Mechanim wheels, which do have rubber rollers. So there is a chance that it will let us get over it. I'm just not sure if it totally will, and I'm not sure if it will. I'm not sure if it will limit us enough that it makes sense to go over to the Andy Mark Stealth wheels. I don't know. I haven't tried it. Our team hasn't tried it. When I saw these pipes, and because they're requiring us to go all the way in and all the way out of the warehouse, you're going to need to be going over that quite a few times. So your options are really either figure out how you fit in that 13-inch gap, or figure out how you can get over that pipe fairly quickly so that you can get in, get a block, and get back out. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
And if you look at these, the things that connect them are taller.
Are a little bit taller. Yep.
So you also have to take that and they go into things that are like triangles, which are taller than
the blocks themselves, or the pipes.
Pipes themselves. So it's just another design question that you're going to have to
right
to deal with. I mean, we had a moment when Tyler and I we haven't talked a ton about it, and obviously our kids are seeing it for the first time. We had a slight moment of, hey, are we going to be able to drive on just the side and make a robot that's smaller than 18 by 18? And I can tell you that Google Vines is not even capable of making something that small.
Honestly, my initial thought on that was you could have an 18-inch wide bot, and you could have a bot that, you have that space in the front, but your wheels are only 18 inches. So your main chassis piece is 13 inches. And then, if you have a lift or whatever in the front, you can do that. But if your wheels are only 13, you could potentially strafe through that gap sideways. So you could have a robot that wasn't as long as it is wide and strafe through that gap. I don't know if that's smart or efficient or anything. Just the thought of looking at this thing.
And really do keep in mind you have to be all the way in the warehouse.
Right.
So going over them, or somehow, like in years past, we've been able to do arms and stuff like that. I mean, we still have an arm, but
right. This isn't like this isn't like Rover Ruckus, where a lot of us had those arms that could reach into the crater and grab a couple of elements. For those of us that were a part of Rover Ruckus, we can't do that, because that was my initial thought too. Is wow, somebody's going to, have an extension that can reach in and grab an element, or somebody's going to, a good team member would be one that could get in there, grab an element, and shuttle it out of the warehouse to another robot waiting out here. And you can't do that either. You have to go in, get the element, come all the way out, put it down. You could go in all the way, get the element, come out, put it down, and have a robot that was able to lift and put it higher on the element or on the scoring piece. But your robot has to go all the way in, get the element, come all the way out for that element to be scoreable. So just keep that in mind.
They asked if the gap between the wall and the end of the pipe is 13 inches.
Yes.
Yes.
15.75.
Yeah, what are the pipes lengths? It's got to be like 28?
28.
And then the taller ones are a little bit longer, right?
29
Okay.
something.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys will find all this when you get into your field assembly, but
yeah, at the end of game manual part 2, there are diagrams of everything too, with some drawn dimensions on them. So if you are making a DIY field this year instead of buying an Andy Mark field, which is totally cool, all of the critical dimensions are in there. There's also a DIY build guide that exists on that first resource page, which will give you some instructions on how to actually build your own. I didn't Notice any rules of what was required to be built for this season's game? Probably because everything's required to be built for this season's game. But I didn't notice any rules of what was required to be purchased. That was what the difference was. So last season with scoring towers, they were letting you basically make that scoring tower out of cardboard and let you make the power shots out of cardboard and all of that. But they were requiring you to buy the wobble goals. I don't know what the deal is with this year. I'm guessing they might require you to buy the standing structure, but they'll probably let you build the pipes or whatever. So I'm not totally sure on that, but I'm sure that will come out, and that's probably already written somewhere if I had to guess.
And last year when we were remote, we also did not have to have the surround. Haven't seen anything on that. I don't.
Monday?
No.
No?
Monday we'll talk.
Okay. Okay.
I haven't seen anything that says whether or not they're going to change that for remote this year. Yeah, I kind of, we're going to make it work for as many people as.
What was that?
Whether or not we have to have.
I don't believe we do need to have this round, actually.
Okay.
The only issue with not having us round, I think, is going to be these turntables. But I believe I saw somewhere that you don't need a surround, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. What other questions, guys?
Can you remind me what those 4 pictures mean?
Those are the ViewMark navigation pictures. So as part of the FTC SDK, so part of the app that they give us, they include a software called Vuforia, which is a library we can use for vision processing. With Vuforia, your robot can look at those images and it, in theory, can tell where you are in the field and what orientation the robot's in based on the size of the picture it's seeing and the orientation or whatever. Some teams have more success with it than others. Some teams have awesome success with it at the beginning of the season, and then a month later can't get it to work to save their lives. Speaking from experience. So, but it is a nice piece of software for some things. The big thing would probably be like getting into this storage space or whatever we're calling it in autonomous. That could be useful. So
this is about where they go.
You need to go over more. They're centered on the 4th square. Nope, other way. Okay. Yep, centered on that square. They're actually even more.
Sure.
It's centered on that square too, but you're close enough. So, yeah, I'm not totally sure what those view marks will be used for this year. I'm not sure if they'll be even used much at all, but we'll see.
And if we're on a remote field, you're only getting 2.
Right.
So if you go to a remote field, obviously that's on the 4-foot section that doesn't exist.
There is no requirement if you go to a remote field of which color you pick. So we have a full field. If we wind up going remote, we'll just pick red or blue, and that will be our remote field. There's no requirement that you have to be on red or that you have to be on blue. You just have to be on half of the field, which is fine. I mean, personally, I would pick whichever one our autonomous works on better, but that'll be kind of a decision that you make. I mean, you could make that decision as you run. You could even say, this is all again assuming that we were to transfer to remote, you could run 2 matches on blue, say that went horribly, switch to the red field and run your other 3 matches on red. And there's really nothing that stops you from doing that. So totally doesn't matter which one. And if you have half a field, you'll just run with what you got.